welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, gonna go over a story titled, My Dad Disowned My Sister and He is Dying. How do I convince her to let him go? And guys, this story, let's be honest, unfortunate story, is coming from the perspective of a young guy. This is the brother of the sister that was disowned. And he's going to share the story of how ultimately the daughter, his sister, pushed her dad way too far. She showed him, in my opinion, the ultimate disrespect. And it went too far. And now, fast forward in time, he's dying. And she wants to connect with him, all that. And he wants nothing to do with her. And you're going to see, guys, in this story that this girl was daddy's little girl. She was the only daughter, even though he had multiple sons, and he treated her like a lot of dads do with their daughter, who is their special angel and all that. He spoiled her rotten. And the problem is, you're going to see what happens when a gal, or a boy, let's be honest, a child is spoiled rotten, and they think everything revolves around them and how they can behave, and the way they'll treat the parents that really had all good intentions, and what happens, right? There's a very important theme to all fathers out there. What can happen if you spoil your kids, daughter or sons, too much? It can back to bite you in the ass. You essentially try to buy their affection, and it backfires. And two, to all the kids out there who think they may want to try crossing their parents, showing them disrespect, thinking they'll never go anywhere, guess what? Whether it be a mother or a father, you push them too far, they're walking. And also, I might add how, guys, there's a point that you can't tolerate disrespect from anyone, and even there's times when you cut off your kids. So nobody wants to do that, but there is that point. So I'm going to go through this story here. It's definitely interesting. So it starts off, he says, as a backstory, my family used to be really close, but that changed in 2003. This is more recent of a story, but the events take place a long time ago. In 2003, when my dad, a 55-year-old male, discovered that my mom, a 54-year-old female, was having an affair with John, another 54-year-old male, my dad's childhood best friend. He was basically his brother back then, and he was my dad's best man in his wedding with my mom. He begged her to stay and work things out, but my mom ended up leaving him for John, and eventually they got a divorce, and my mom ended up marrying John 5 months later. So this father was betrayed by his best childhood friend and best man, hooking up with his wife. I mean, you talk about terrible here. And it gets worse. And I might add, this guy, in my opinion, this old best friend of his certainly deserves an ass kicking. Now watch what happens with regards to this guy named John. An interesting name there. He was her John. My twin sister Sarah, a 27-year-old female, was always the stereotypical daddy's girl. Dad spoiled her a bit more than the rest of us, and she was basically his shadow back then, and that's why it was really surprising to us that Sarah chose to stay with our mom after the divorce. Daddy's little girl, he treated her like a princess, spoiled her too much, as you're going to see. And on the divorce, where mom cheated with dad's best friend, childhood friend, best man, she goes to live with her mom. Gee, thanks. Back then, me, a 27-year-old male, and her were the only ones still living with our parents. We had other 4 brothers. I chose to stay with Dad, and Sarah chose to live with my mom, and on the weekends, she'd come to stay with me and Dad. I chose to stay with Dad, and I occasionally went to my mom's house. To say that the divorce and my sister choosing to stay with my mom effed up my dad is an understatement. He tried to act like he was okay in front of us, but every single weekday for the following year, the divorce, I could hear him crying himself to sleep. Yeah, first his wife cheats on him and divorces him with his best friend, and now his daughter, who he's showered with affection and spoiled, chooses mom over him. But I want to know what else was going on. What was mom saying to her, right? And now that she's living with mom, what are the things that mom is whispering in her ear? But at the end of the day, everybody's responsible for their own actions as an adult. After the divorce, the relationship between Sarah and Dad didn't change much. He didn't change that much. He started to spoil her a bit more than usual and still remained the usual super dad, showing up in every parent-teacher conference, ballet recital, and soccer match, and being the most present dad possible. Buying her affection. That's the wrong way to go. He's overcompensating. It makes a kid eventually think, well, I am royalty. I deserve everything that I want, you peasants. Things started to change when she suddenly changed her mind about medical school. Our dad is a surgeon, and she always said that she wanted to follow his steps, but Mom and John ended up pressuring her to change her career path to become a lawyer. Mom and John are both lawyers. During her studies, John started mentoring her, and they became really close. After she finished her education, he got her a job at his law firm. I think that is more of a slap in the face to the father here, because they obviously knew that he wanted her to go to medical school, and obviously she had an interest in that, and they obviously then changed her mind. Not surprised there. On to the issue. In 2017, Sarah got married. My dad was absolutely thrilled about her wedding. He gave Sarah a blank check for her dream wedding. Well, that's a boneheaded thing. Give a young gal, a spoiled young girl, essentially a blank check for the wedding. You want to talk about some of the most colossal ways to throw away money over a stupid party. That's really what it is, a big stupid party. If money's going to be given, use that money for a down payment for a house or something like that, or a nice nest egg that a new married couple can have for, a emergency fund or something. But just to piss away at a stupid party, I've always thought these big weddings are the dumbest, most colossal waste of money ever. And even before I started doing what I do on YouTube. Anyway, he said, to be fair, he did this to all of us. He really liked weddings. But in Sarah's case, he was really excited because she's his only daughter. And I always remember him talking about walking her down the aisle. Over freaking rated. Like every wedding that he ever went to, he always said he wanted to do that, and he couldn't wait for the day he could walk his little girl down the aisle. One day before the wedding, Sarah drops the bomb that Dad and John will be walking her down the aisle together. This spoiled a-hole girl, whose dad just gave her a blank check for her wedding, has treated her like the princess her whole life, all of a sudden wants to have her dad, who's giving her everything, and the a-hole that was cheating with her mom and helped break up the marriage, to also walk her down the aisle. The dad's going to walk his daughter down the aisle with that mother effer that was nailing his wife and contributed to ruining the family. You want to talk about selfish a-hole. I'd be done with her just like that. Now watch what happens here. Well, Dad is the most non-confrontational person to walk on this earth, and she expected him just to suck it up. He didn't do that. They got into a huge fight. First time I see him get angry. And in the end, he didn't attend the wedding, and John ended up walking Sarah down the aisle. What a little shithead. And of course, the other guy didn't care. If I'm the dad, I'd be like, nah, that's it. Bring back the caviar, take back the cake, take back the hors d'oeuvres, wedding's over, I'm not paying for it. The fallout was massive. After the wedding, Dad and his side of our family basically disowned her, and their relationship became non-existent. He's done. A good man, even a good man, can be pushed too far, and he's done. And I don't blame this guy at all. That little shit can have John take care of her. This poor guy, because he meant well. How many parents really mean well? Then again, as the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. She tried to reach out after a while and make amends several times, but he simply didn't want to talk to her or hear from her. We expected him to turn around when she gave birth in 2018, but he doesn't even want to meet her kids. She crossed the line. Because she expected, hey, he'll be mad, but you know what? He's Dad. He gives me everything I want, so I'll just sweet talk him like Daddy's little girl, and he'll come back to me, end of story. Nope. She crossed this man. Earlier this year, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and unfortunately the treatment didn't work, and he is terminal. Even with that, he doesn't want to see her again, and she doesn't understand that. I'm very close to my dad, and this last few weeks have been really difficult for me. How do I convince her to let him go? Good luck, brother. The only girl who's been spoiled her whole life, trying to tell her no. They're not used to being told no. This girl has made her bed, and she can freaking lie in it. This is unfortunate. I'm sure we can all agree there. But he definitely tried. And then again, I'm gonna have the other dude walk me down the aisle too. Was that guy paying for the wedding? I think not. And I don't care that he was mentoring her. I don't care about that. This was for her dad, her real dad. And I'm sure he had moments that he wanted to be done with her before, and he obviously tried too hard. Fine, it is what it is. But he was a good man. And look what she did to him. Now he's dying. Now for an update. says here, some people ask for an update. Unfortunately, life isn't all about happy endings, and this is a sad ending. A week after I posted the original story, my dad started getting worse. His health started declining really fast. We lost him exactly 1 month ago. It wasn't pretty. I never thought it would be, but I never thought it would be that heartbreaking. He was in a lot of pain. He'd been through so much in these last months. As heartbreaking as it was, he deserved to rest. He was tired. That was kind of like the final days of my dad. That literally, we were like, please let him go because I don't want him to suffer. He was in hospice. I can understand that. In the end, he was lucid enough to say his goodbyes to me and my older brothers. Hearing him saying what he said to me was one of the most painful and beautiful moments of my entire life. His words to me meant a lot. I won't say exactly what he said because I believe it's just too personal. He said goodbye to my daughters, 11 months and 2 years old. It was just like when I was a kid. He gave them a kiss on the forehead, told them to be good girls, and said he loved them. It was something I won't ever forget. And it hurts like hell that they are so young to understand what happened. They still ask about Grandpa, and every time I try to explain to them that he isn't coming back, they don't seem to understand that, and how can I blame them? At least this guy's dad got to see them before he go. For him. And that's good. And those girls probably won't remember. I mean, it's unfortunate he won't get to see them grow up, and they won't get to see their grandpa growing up, but at least he got to see them before they go. I'm only 27. I honestly don't get it. I was supposed to get a lot more years of my dad. It doesn't seem fair at all. Never does. The worst part was my twin sister, Sarah. Dad died without speaking to her. I tried to talk to him about her, but he wasn't interested in speaking with her. She started getting more desperate, and suddenly he died. It was expected, but she was in denial. His funeral was beautiful. A lot of people shared their stories about him, and it was nice. Sarah saw Dad for the first time since the night before her wedding. She didn't recognize him. He was very skinny. Dad was always a little bit overweight, the famous dad bod, but he had lost a lot of weight from the cancer. She cried a lot during the whole funeral. Mom and John tried to show up at the ceremony, and my uncles were forced to kick them out of the funeral. Good effing riddance. Good. Dad's will went as expected as it could. Dad's family came from old money, petrochemicals, so he always had a lot of money. He left a little bit of money and properties divided equally to all his kids, including Sarah. So after all this shit, Shithead Sarah, that's what we'll call her, Shithead Sarah, SS, still got something from her old man. He left a trust fund, which was a lot of money, for all his grandkids, including Sarah's kids, which he never met. It was honestly expected. My dad never really cared about money that much. He just wanted us to be comfortable and assure that his grandkids all had something to support them. The tricky part was the personal things. He left a really big letter to all of us except Sarah. It was really personal stuff. In my letter, he spoke to me about our story, about my childhood. It was really nice. I must have read the letter like 100 times, and I cried every single time. One of Dad's favorite hobbies was photography. He was quite an enthusiast, and the subject of photos was pretty much our family. When he and Mom were together, later it turned out that it was just to be me and my siblings. As a result of all this, we had a lot of pictures from us growing up. He gave each of us a photo album, and behind each photo, he wrote something where it was taken and a few words. I was honestly very surprised with this. He must have done this long before he died. It was a very thoughtful goodbye gift, something that was very typical of Dad. That's cool. An album with all those pictures they never saw, and him writing little things where they were, the date, a little note. That's a very touching thing. Sarah didn't get a letter, and her album didn't have anything written behind the photos. And when she found out about this, she had a mental breakdown. Well, they all do, especially the spoiled ones. The regret was eating her alive, and it still is. She was admitted to the hospital and spent an entire week there. She's doing a bit better now. She spent an entire week at a hospital over a, panic attack or meltdown or something. No wonder so many foreigners think of what they do about Americans being weak. I mean, honest to God. I get she's upset, but she brought this on herself. She's doing better now, getting a little better every day. Her husband and I are really confident in her recovery. She's sleeping and eating almost normally now. She still starts to cry randomly multiple times on a daily basis, but it's getting better. At least that's what I'm telling to myself. Well, can do one of two things. She can either be angry about daddy the rest of her life, or she can realize that she, as a grown-ass adult, effed up, showed him incredible disrespect when he showed her nothing but love and affection her whole life, and learn from it. That's what she can do. She wants to, essentially, he's gone. She can't fix what happened. If she wants to essentially repay him or redeem herself, then she stops being the spoiled, selfish little a-hole that she is, and has a major change in attitude and raises her kids to not be little a-holes. That's what she can do, to honor her father's memory. And speak highly of him to the day she dies. Which brings us to last week. My wife and I discovered that we are expecting again. It wasn't planned or anything like that. My wife switched birth controls last month, and she spends a week without taking the pill, and it's still very early in her pregnancy, so we haven't told anyone yet. The old switch the birth control and suddenly she's pregnant thing. She wanted that child, sir. The thing is, I'm really angry. I'm angry that my future kid is not going to be able to meet my dad. I'm effing pissed, honestly. It doesn't seem fair at all. I'm angry and I'm scared. My dad was supposed to guide me this whole parenting process. He was teaching me a lot about with my daughters. I'm effing scared of doing this without him. I'm scared of not being a good father like he was to me because my kids deserve that. Unfortunately, brother, not that he's ever going to see this, but sadly, that is life. But I'm sure the dad here raised him well, and he'll be just fine. I'm sure that the father had every confidence this guy'd make a good father. Just be like his dad. Just don't spoil the kids. That is it, folks. The whole situation could be a lot better. I play the what-if scenario in my head every day. Unfortunately, it doesn't change anything. It never changes anything. Therefore, the what-if things is a waste of time. But it's a coping mechanism. This is honestly a bitter ending. It doesn't seem fair at all. But that's the thing about life. It actually is never fair. Life is not fair. My father, a very good man, told me that from a very young age when I did this stupid little kid thing saying, that's not fair, or something ridiculous. And my father, survivor, my dad was way older than me, guys, survivor of the Great Depression. He was a kid in the Great Depression. Survivor of World War II. Believe me quibbling over something stupid not being fair, he made a point saying life is not fair. Made it abundantly clear, and I learned that at an early age. It's not fair, but you keep on trucking. I want to thank everyone who gave me advice and to everyone who reached out and offered their support in the chat. I was very lonely at that time. I still am. Haha. F this year. Honestly, it means a lot to me. Thank you, Reddit. So there you go, guys. This was the story about this dude and he's dealing with this, but also about that girl. And the theme of this whole story is, for the parents out there, don't spoil their kids rotten so much. No matter how much you love them and want to do nice things for them, you cross the line in the spoiling department, they become little entitled little a-holes and don't care about anybody's feelings or anything else except what they want. And that's what you had there. So he effed up there. However, she effed up in the sense that she just became a spoiled, selfish a-hole. She was a grown-ass adult. She knew darn well it was going to hurt her dad, but she didn't care. And when after years of being great to her, he was done. There's a point when all people, but this is a men's channel, all men, good men, have their breaking point, when they're done. And when you cross us, we're done forever. There's no amount of tears and begging and pleas ever going to change our mind. So for those of you out there, maybe you were certainly spoiled, or for anybody out there who stumbles upon this channel, think twice before you test a parent's patience too much. Otherwise, they may cut you off just like this father did here. And again, the parents out there, be careful with the kids and giving them too much, and you get the point there. But she got what she deserved, at least early on. She's never going to forget this. She's going to spend her whole life probably upset that what happened. She's never going to say goodbye, all that stuff. But she brought it on herself. And the best thing she can do is get a major attitude adjustment and live a good life, and in his memory to honor him, to redeem herself, not raise her kids to be little a-holes, and to be a good person, be the person that he wanted her to be and thought she could be, not the little spoiled shithead that wanted to walk him and the guy that banged his wife and ruined the family down the aisle at the same time. Not cool. Alright guys, that was it for today. Be sure to comment down below, let me know what you think about this. And guys, also if you come across a good story like to share, by all means email to me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me some time to get to it, and I will if it's definitely a good one. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.